In the last class, we discussed what is software engineering, then what is the importance of software engineering, then software process activities, that is specification, software development, software validation, and software evaluation. So these are called as a software process activities. There are four process activities, that is software specification, development, validation, and evaluation. So that you need to remember. These four are called as software process activities. Then what are the general issues that affect software? That is heterogeneity. Heterogeneity means like you will be using various types of networks, various type of devices, isn't it? By keeping such things in mind, we have to develop the software. So therefore, heterogeneity is one of the factors that affects software. Then business and social change. So you need to develop your system such that it is flexible enough to accommodate new changes or to accommodate new modifications. Because as the business keeps changing, the changes have to be updated, and at the same time, social changes will happen within the society. So to cope up with that, we need to keep evolving our application. Then other aspects are security and trust. So when we develop any application, we need to take concern about security to make it trustworthy. Then scale, that is all about scalability. Your application must be scalable. If you get more number of clients, so you should be able to cater to the needs of the customers, though therefore it should be scalable. Then today we have to start from software engineering diversity. So from here we will continue. Software engineering diversity means there is nothing like single method to develop any given software. There is nothing like one standard methodology to develop software. So we say that sometimes we use software development lifecycle, that is a waterfall model. Sometimes we use iterative model. Sometimes we use spiral model, and sometimes people say I am using Kanban, I am using Scrum, and so on. That means in the market there are so many methodologies available to develop a professional software. Therefore, there is nothing like single standard procedure to develop a software. Depending upon the nature of the project and depending upon the strength of the company, we decide what methodology is to be followed to develop the software. Especially when you are dealing with business related applications, we go with agile methodology. Agile is one methodology which allows us to develop software in terms of iterations or versions. Then the software engineering methods and tools used depend upon the type of application being developed, the requirements of the customer, and the background of the development team. Isn't it? That is very much important. Background of the development team. Say for example, you have a team, say let us assume you are running an organization and all the teams are used to work with waterfall model. But what happens if you decide to work or to implement agile methodology? So which is not at all possible. Why? Because all your team members are used to work with waterfall model. Therefore, before making them to work using agile, you have to enhance their skill set so that they can adopt to agile methodology.
Sir, someone waiting in lobby, sir.
Someone is trying to log in.
Yes, sir.
1 minute. 1 minute. Yes, they joined, isn't it? Yes. So that's about software engineering diversity. When you say software engineering diversity, it's a diversified environment wherein people will keep developing heterogeneous applications. Then depending upon the nature of the project and the strength of the team, they decide what methodology is to be followed and what framework has to be adopted so that the software can be developed in a professional manner. And that is going to be a cost effective solution. So always two things are very important. One is professional methodology, and another one is cost effective software to develop a cost effective software. Now let us see what are the various application types. These are nothing but the types of projects the industry will develop. So first thing is standalone applications. Friends, any idea what are standalone applications? What is the definition that you know about standalone application?
So which are executed without any internet connection.
Yeah, not only
Which
internet,
works.
any network connection. That means the system is single system. It is not at all connected to any network, and your application can run within that system without any other dependencies. You have a PC or a laptop, and it is not at all connecting to any other network, external network, and you can install that application and efficiently you can work. So that becomes standalone application. Then, how to develop standalone applications? You can select any existing programming language like C, C++, Python, Perl, PHP, Java, .NET, anything. You can develop the application. Then, what is the purpose of developing such applications? See, most of the standalone applications are generic applications. That means it can be like when so many people are having common requirements. To meet those requirements, some applications can be developed, and most of the time such applications are generic. Then that doesn't mean that it must be generic application. Just I'm telling, most of the time such applications are generic. So look at the definition. These are application systems that run on local computer such as PC. They include all necessary functionality and do not need to be connected to a network. Without getting connected to any other external network, it can work. Such a system is called as standalone. That's why it got its name, standalone application. Then the second category of applications are interactive transaction based applications. The moment when we say interactive, that means see you're interfacing with the application from one place, but actually it is running somewhere else, isn't it? Most of the times example are web applications. Look at the definition. Applications that execute on a remote computer and are accessed by users from their own PCs or terminals. These include web applications such as e-commerce applications. If you consider the example of e-commerce application, that's an interactive application where it will provide you the interface using which you will interact with the application. Then depending upon the functionality that you select, accordingly it will respond to you. That is called as interactive application. Friends, can you give one example for interactive application? Hello?
It's a Flipkart.
Yeah, Flipkart. Okay, apart from e-commerce portals, you tell me some other applications, which is interactive and transaction-based applications.
Banking applications.
Very good, banking applications. So in what way it is interactive? Tell me how it is interactive.
So we can do transactions. We can check our balances and all.
Yes. If I consider the example of the ATM machine, it is interactive, isn't it?
Yes,
So we
sir.
use the ATM kiosk, but actually where the application is installed, that is installed somewhere in the data center, isn't it? But we interface that by using the ATM kiosk machine. There, it is interactive such that as soon as we insert our card, it will ask us to enter the PIN. So that means that is interactive. It is asking us to enter the PIN. Then after successfully entering the PIN, it will give some confirmation message. Then we need to select the type of account, that is savings account or current account. After selecting that, once again it will give us options, whether you want to withdraw, whether you want to check the balance, whether you want to deposit. what you want to do. So in that sense, it is interactive. So banking application is an example for interactive application. All the e-commerce portals. Then what else? Any other examples? See, all web portals are interactive only, isn't it? Most of the web applications are interactive. Depending upon the action we take, accordingly it will respond. Third category of the systems are embedded control systems. Any idea, students, what are embedded control systems? Yesterday I was telling few examples of washing machine, refrigerator. Tell me how they are embedded control systems. Tell me, students, what kind of operating system we use in embedded systems? Students, this is a typical question. Tell me, what kind of operating system we use in embedded systems? Hello? Anybody? What kind of operating system we use?
So Linux and Android.
Not like that. So that is not what I am expecting. Okay, now I'll put it in another way. Whether your refrigerator or an washing machine, smart washing machine, does it contain an operating system?
No,
That is
sir.
the
I think general
huh?
C and Java.
C and Java. I'm asking about operating system, not programming language.
Linux.
See, let it be Linux or some other operating system. See, they contain real-time operating systems. Most of the times, in case of embedded systems, you need not install anything. It will come along with the inbuilt circuitry. The inbuilt circuitry contains everything. Say when we borrow a refrigerator, we need not do any tinkering work, isn't it? We need not explicitly install anything. Everything come inside within that component. It contains everything. That is called as embedded. That's why it got its name embedded control system. So they operate by using real-time operating systems. That is RTOs. Have you heard about RTOs? Real-time operating systems. Then very importantly, they contain something called as microcontroller, especially to control the hardware devices. That is very much essential. Microcontroller. That microcontroller contains the instructions. Accordingly, it will operate the hardware device. Can you give examples for embedded systems? Students, can I give few examples for embedded systems? Smartwatch, refrigerator, washing machine. Then what else?
Video game.
Yeah, video game.
Microwaves.
What about the smartphone? Is it
Smart TV.
Is it an embedded machine? Hello? So my question is simple. What if I consider the example of smartphone? Is it embedded? Yeah, digital camera. Yes, very good. Digital camera is also an example. Students, you can tell. You need not type there because that becomes hectic to traverse there and to see your message and then reply. See, these are all the examples for embedded systems. See, the very basic definition of embedded machines is these are the software control systems that control and manage the hardware devices. That means we need to understand the whole purpose of embedded system is to control and coordinate the functions within the hardware component. That hardware component can be anything, isn't it? That can be a camera, a washing machine, refrigerator, a mobile phone, anything, any hardware component. The whole purpose is to control the hardware device. Numerically, there are probably more embedded systems than any other type of system. That means there are more embedded systems than any other normal application softwares. Next type of applications are batch processing systems. See, all these things so many times I think you have studied, isn't it, students, in operating system and all. Tell me, what are batch processing systems?
Process.
So
Huh?
where a set of commands are executed at once.
Yeah, that means whenever you want to execute the tasks, so similar tasks are grouped together and provided at once so that the tasks will execute in sequence one after the other. Such a system is called as batch processing system. They process large number of individual inputs to create corresponding outputs. So that's a specialty about batch processing systems. Say, students, have you heard about batch file? We have batch file both in Windows and Linux. What is that batch file? What is its functionality and how it will work? Do you know how to create a batch file? Students? Anyone? Have you ever created any batch file? See, always you can create a batch file. You can take one notepad, then you write command 1, command 2, command 3. That means each line contains one command and save it as file name .bat, bat. Then go to command prompt, go to the location where you have saved the file. Just type the file name. You need not type the .bat. Say, for example, the name of the batch file is myfile.bat. So what you need to type in the command prompt, you should go to the DOS prompt, there type myfile, so that it will execute all the commands in sequence. It will take entire command as one batch and it will execute at once, one after the other. So that is the purpose of batch file. Okay, now I'll tell you one real-time scenario where actually you can use batch file. Let us assume, so I think you all are worked with Java. Am I right? Have you worked with Java?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
See, many times what happens when we work with Java, say for example, you have installed in program files under C drive. You have installed your JDK under program files. But so most of the times you want to save all your programs in D drive or F drive, so that you want to compile your programs there only. So what you will do, every time you will go to command prompt and you will set the path. Set path is equal to, so you will write the path of the JDK. So you will set the path, isn't it? So instead of doing that, if you put that instruction in a batch file, just you go to command prompt and you type the name of the batch file, it will execute everything, isn't it? So every time, say for example, you will go to command prompt, by default it will go to C drive, then you will do cd \, then you will type so where you want to navigate, isn't it? So then after that you will type path is equal to, so path of the JDK. So all such things can be automated instead of you typing it every day. So what you can do, you can create one batch file so that will execute on your behalf. You just type the file name, it will execute all the commands. That is one application. And another application of batch file is, say for example, you are testing one application and you want to schedule it to run at some particular time. Then there is, in Windows there is something called as Windows Scheduler. Using the Windows Scheduler, you can automate that. So when you want to run the script that you can automate. So then if you want to execute that instruction, you put that instruction within the batch file. Within the batch file, then you just go to the command prompt and type the name of the batch file. On your behalf, it will execute all the commands. In Unix, you have used like art command, batch command, and so on, isn't it? What for? That is meant for scheduling the commands to run at a specific time, isn't it? Such things can be scheduled easily by using batch files. Then second is entertainment systems. Examples: gaming applications, YouTube, and any music related portals. They are called as entertainment systems. These are systems that are primarily for personal use and which are intended to entertain the users. And such systems can be standalone systems as well as interactive systems. See, if we consider the portal of Savan, if you go to Savan portal, it is interactive. You can search whether you want to play some Hindi song, Kannada song, whichever the song you want, and there will be a list. Using that you can select, isn't it? That is interactive plus entertainment application. There are so many entertainment applications. All the gaming applications come under entertainment. Then music related applications will come under entertainment systems. So therefore, those are the examples. Next is systems for modeling and simulation. These are systems that are developed by scientists and engineers to model physical processes or situations which include many separate interacting objects. How to do simulation? Students have used NS2 or hello? Have used NS2 Network Simulator
Yes,
2? What is it?
Sir, very good, sir.
What kind of system it is? What you can do with NS2, tell me. So you can model the network design, then you can create artificial traffic and you can simulate how it will behave, how the network will behave. Am I right? You can do the network design using the GUI. Then after that, you can simulate. You can create the artificial traffic and you can observe how the network will behave, how the packets are traveling from one node to another node, isn't it? That is called modeling and simulation. Similarly, there is rational rules, which is only the modeling tool, but NS2 is modeling plus simulation. Similarly, there are emulators. Emulators are one which will actually emulate the real-time scenario in the software system and you can observe how it is going to behave. For example, there are so many emulators available. Let us assume you have developed one mobile application and your target machine is Macintosh. That means you have developed one application which is supposed to be installed in Macintosh operating system, and after installing, how it will work, you have the curiosity. So before actually installing it, you can download one emulator. There are emulators available for various mobile phones. Then you can install your application in that emulator and you can check how it will look, how your application will look in Macintosh. Then you can take a call. Okay, whether you need to do any modifications or is it fine, like that. So those are all examples for systems for modeling and simulation. Students, it's an interview question. What is simulator and what is emulator? Make it a point. After this class, you just Google it. What is simulator and emulator? Simulator, already you know, you are working with it, is in networks laboratory. So at the same time, I think you have never used emulator. Just Google it. Emulator is one software component which is used to emulate the real-time scenario using a software machine, which will create artificial environment so that you will have the feeling as if you are working in a real machine. So as I gave you the example of a mobile application which you are targeting to install it in Macintosh operating system. For that, you can download one emulator Then you see how it will work in that emulator. If it is working fine in that emulator, then it will also work efficiently fine in the real Macintosh operating system. So that is called emulator. You just Google it because that's an interview question. If you say I have done this project and all, then they will ask you which simulator you have used, which emulator you have used, what is the difference between simulator and emulator. Then next category is data collection systems. Example, any MIS system. So management information system. So as the name itself will tell, management information system, which contains information about all the employees, isn't it? These are the systems that collect data from their environment using a set of sensors and send that data to other systems for processing. Students, have you heard about wireless sensor networks? Hello? Hello? Have you heard about wireless sensor networks? I want the reply. So what for they are meant? Wireless sensor network is meant for collecting the data frequently using the sensors, then pass the data to the computer, process it, isn't it?
Yes,
Say
sir.
for example, you may be interested in collecting weather related data very frequently. Say for example, once in 3 minutes. You can set that frequency to sense the information. There are so many sensors like proximity sensor, temperature sensor, humidity sensor, and so on. These are the systems that collect data from their environment. That means from where they'll collect from their surrounding environment. There are sensors which can work inside the water, which can say everywhere we use sensors. See, in car also we use sensors, isn't it? Parking sensors we use, proximity sensors we use, temperature sensing sensors we use. Like that, there are so many sensors. Then the last example is system of systems. What is this systems of systems? These are the systems that are composed of a number of other software systems. Can you give an example for systems of systems, students? That means it is one bigger system which contains so many softwares. Have you seen any such system which contains so many software applications inside one component? Hello? Can you tell me one example where one component contains so many softwares, different types of softwares for different purposes? One minute, what is that? Students, give me example for systems of systems. Look at here. Now I'll consider the example of a car. Say for example, I'll consider Jaguar car. For example, tell me what kind of softwares it may contain. So it will give you parking assistance, which is based upon the software. Okay. Then when you want to apply the reverse gear, it will show you the sensor, like, so proximity sensor will be used. If there are any objects in back of your car, it will show you. So you can go back another 1 feet, another 1.2 feet. So that is based upon the software. Then once again, to maintain the temperature automatically within the car, there is a sensor and it will work based upon the software. Then when you apply the brake, say for example, especially in the curve, suppose let us assume the curve is bit slant. Now your duty is just to apply the brake, but it is a software inside the car which will decide how much in what proportion it has to apply brake on each of the tire. Because the road is flat, for one of the tire it may apply 70% brake, for another tire it may apply 40% brake. So that is controlled by the software. See, in the modern cars, see, look at the applications of the software. Even when you apply the brake, it is the software which is taking the call. So how much to apply, isn't it? So therefore, now in my example, I am taking the example of a modern car like Jaguar car, which is having brakes, which is having a proximity sensor, which is working based upon the software. And to maintain the temperature, you have a software. And for navigation purpose, you have a GPS, which is a software based system. Then it is having the parking assistance, which is once again controlled by the software, isn't it? Then you have a digital dashboard, isn't it, which is based upon the software. There are so many softwares. So you have one hardware component, that is the car, which in turn contains so many softwares. Therefore, that car is simply a collection of hardware and software components, which is nothing but systems of systems. Got it? The meaning of systems of systems? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That is called systems of systems. Next, software engineering fundamentals. Student, you have any doubts in types of systems? We studied standalone systems, interactive systems, batch processing systems, systems of systems, and so on. Shall I continue?
Yes, sir.
Software engineering fundamentals. Some fundamental principles apply to all types of software system, irrespective of the development techniques that we use. Systems should be developed using a managed and understood development process. Of course, different processes are used for different types of software. See, one of the fundamental thing is that, sir, it doesn't matter whether you're developing an application software, whether you're developing a system software, you're developing some entertainment application, whatever it may be, it has to follow some standard procedure, isn't it? So, and the methodology, what you're applying, that should be made known to all the members of the team. See, if you are using waterfall model, that should be made known to each and every individual within the team. And they should know what are the processes involved in waterfall model, isn't it? That is specification, design, implementation, testing, and delivery and maintenance. So these are the processes that should be known to everyone. Then dependability and performance are important for all types of system. So whatever the system that you develop, that should be dependable and performance should be satisfactory. If it is a game, see, the game should, see, you should play the game every time in the same manner, and it should behave uniformly whenever you use that gaming software. So then it is dependable, and the performance should be good. If you are developing a web application, its response time should be acceptable. That is the performance. Similarly, the game, like that, whenever you develop any application, it should be dependable and performance must be good. Then understanding and managing the software specification and requirements are important. Understanding and managing the software specification. Especially this is very, very important in case of critical systems. Students, what are critical systems? Have you heard about safety critical systems? Example, air traffic monitoring system and the softwares that are used in operation theaters and the softwares that are used in aircrafts, they are considered as safety critical systems or critical systems. Hello? See, especially while developing such systems, we do mathematical modeling. See, always mathematical modeling is very, very accurate than any other type of modeling. To achieve, those are the systems which require high precision and more accuracy. See, when we say laser treatment, it is a software based operation, isn't it? So where the precision is very important and accuracy is very important, to develop such systems we use mathematical modeling. So understanding and managing the software specification, especially while developing critical systems and business applications, is very important. While developing business applications, what happens? See, the business analyst will collect information from the client. After collecting, he will ask the client, you tell me, okay, you are asking me to develop the software within 6 months. If that is the case, tell me which are all the features that you want immediately that I will deliver in the first 6 months. I'll give highest priority to those requirements. Remaining requirements will be implemented in the second version, isn't it? So that's why understanding and managing the software specification and requirements plus requirements is very important. At the same time, to develop the software, like which framework is required, what are the tools and technology that you are going to select, that is very important, because once you select, it is not so easy to change in between. Say for example, let us assume we have selected say Python as a language to develop some particular application. Then after some time you feel it is very hectic, so Java may be ideally suited for that purpose. It is not so easy to make a shift from Python to Java, because you have invested a lot of effort, isn't it? There are so many people working on it, so it is not so easy to make a shift. So therefore you should have better understanding and you have to manage them properly, especially software specification and requirements. Then where appropriate, you should reuse software that has already been developed rather than write the new software. That is all about promoting code reusability. What the concept of code reusability tells us is, you write the code, then you test it. Once you feel that, or once you make sure that the code is working efficiently as per the requirement, then you save one copy of the code in your repository, so that may be useful for you in the later course of time when you do similar projects. When you want to implement some similar functionality, that code can be reused, so that this saves a lot of developer time, and also for company also it's a very big advantage, financial advantage. You need not ask your developer to re-implement it again and again. They can just reuse the same code. Next is internet software engineering. The web is now a platform for running application, and organizations are increasingly developing web-based systems rather than local systems. Tell me students, what is the biggest advantage of web applications? Easy access by using internet. If you have internet and a browser, you can access the application from wherever you want. So that's the biggest advantage. That is the reason why many of the applications are implemented as web applications. At the same time, we also have web services. Web service is nothing but providing some kind of service. Say for example, providing some storage facility, say Google Docs. Google Docs is a very good example for web services. So if you have the browser and internet, you can avail that service, isn't it? Say for example, your friend has sent one email to you and it contains some attachment. It contains some, say for example, Excel file, but you don't have MS Office itself in your local machine, but you have the internet. So you can make use of Google Docs to view that application, or to view that Excel file. Now that Google Docs is an example for web service. That is the functionality that is accessed using the web. Then cloud computing. It is an approach to the provision of computer services where applications run remotely on the cloud. The cloud computing, when I say cloud computing, it contains a collection of interlinked data centers which are scattered across the geographical locations, and you can access the cloud just by using the web browser. And users do not buy software, but just they need to pay for whatever the service they consume. Therefore, the cloud computing works on pay on consumption model. It will use pay on consumption model. And then web-based systems are complex distributed systems, but the fundamental principles of software engineering discussed previously are as applicable to them as they are to any other types of systems. That means whatever the software engineering principles that we have discussed earlier, they are also applicable for web-based applications. So web-based applications are complex distributed systems. Not all the web-based applications are distributed. Some of the web-based applications are distributed systems. What are distributed systems, students? Any idea? Hello? Students, what are distributed applications? Hello? Students, tell me what are distributed systems?
Sir, the software can be used from different systems.
Huh? Say, for example, when I say Google is a distributed system, say Google may be having one data center in Hyderabad, one in San Francisco, another one in Munich, and so on. So when you send a search query, since you're in India, so Hyderabad data center is very near to you. From there it will reply, isn't it? In case if that becomes non-functioning, then your request may be redirected to some other data center. So that is distributed. Then what is distributed computing? Distributed computing means there can be multiple nodes where your workload is divided into small pieces, and each piece will be given to one node to process, and cumulatively it will generate the result, and that will be presented to the end user. To achieve distributed computing, even the cluster based computing can be used. In case of distributed computing, most of the times it follow master slave concept, where the master node will receive the task and it will divide the task into small pieces, and it will assign those small pieces to various nodes. Then it will get the reply back. Then it will send response to the end user. That's how distributed systems will work. And the advantage of the distributed systems is that if any one node, say for example, let us assume there are 10 nodes. Among those 10, one is the master and 9 are slaves. Among those 9 slaves, if one slave goes down, its workload will be shared to some other node. Okay, there is no loss. That it's the node which goes down, that load will be given to some other node for further processing, so that the system is available and reliable. Distributed systems are always dependable, reliable, and they provide more availability.
Yes, sir.
The fundamental ideas of software engineering apply to web-based software in the same way that they apply to other software systems. So whatever the principles that you apply for standalone systems with respect to software engineering are also applicable for web-based applications. And the same principles can also be applied for entertainment applications, batch processing applications, and so on. That means irrespective of the type of application, the software engineering principles are same for all the types of applications. So that's the final takeaway from this concept. We'll stop it here, students. We'll continue in the next class. Now I'll take the attendance. Okay, Akrut Kumar. He has given one example, Internet Explorer. What is that, Akrut Kumar? Hello? Okay, answer for the attendance. USN 1,
Yes, sir.
2,
Yes, sir.
3,